Hello, friends. Welcome to Storycraft. On this channel, you will enjoy world top stories. Let's view the video. The Girl Who Lived, 2 Lives. Reincarnation Mystery. Whispers from Another Life. It began on a quiet afternoon in the City Museum. 7-year-old Eliza trailed behind her parents, bored and restless, until her eyes locked onto a grand oil painting. It depicted a Victorian-era manor shrouded in mist, perched atop a rolling hill. Without hesitation, Eliza reached out and said softly, "That's my home." Her mother chuckled, assuming she was pretending again. But Eliza's eyes didn't waver. "There's a secret staircase behind the library," she added, her voice calm. "And a maze in the garden. I used to get lost in it when I was little." Her parents exchanged uneasy glances. There was no plaque detailing such features. But Eliza's tone wasn't playful. It was certain. That night at dinner, she asked, "Do you think it's bad if someone remembers a life that isn't theirs?" Her father froze mid-bite. "Why would you say that, sweetheart?" Eliza shrugged. "Because sometimes I dream of falling, but I don't land." The dreams escalated. She began sleep-talking in a voice that didn't sound like her own, whispering names her family didn't recognize: Clara, Thomas, Adelaide. She drew pictures of old carriages, oil lamps, and grand ballrooms. In one drawing, she sketched a woman in a corseted dress, standing on a balcony, arms outstretched, hair blowing in the wind. The caption she wrote underneath: "The moment before. He pushed me." At school, Eliza's teachers noticed strange behavior. She spoke with unusual formality, using words like proper and corsetry. She hummed melodies no one recognized, until a historian heard her and identified one as a 19th century English lullaby that hadn't been sung in over 100 years. One weekend, her family visited an archive to research the manor from the painting. They found it. It had belonged to a young woman named Clara Whitmore, who tragically died at the age of 22 after a fatal fall from her balcony. The official record said it was an accident. Eliza disagreed. "She didn't fall," she said, staring at Clara's faded photograph. "She was pushed." He was angry because she found out. "Who?" her mother asked, barely breathing. "Thomas," Eliza replied. "Her fiancé." From that moment on, Eliza's story couldn't be dismissed as childhood fantasy. She knew the layout of Clara's home. She described events and objects no living person could have told her. Most chilling of all, she remembered the moment of death, the terror, the betrayal, and the promise to return. The mirror that remembers Eliza's. Parents hoped the visit to the ruined manor would bring closure. Instead, it unlocked something much deeper. The sun was setting as they stood in front of the crumbling remains of Whitmore Estate. Ivy had overtaken the once grand facade, and rusted iron gates creaked in the wind. But Eliza didn't hesitate. She stepped onto the path with the confidence of someone returning home. "This way," she said, leading them through a side trail overgrown with brambles. Her small fingers brushed aside the vines until they reached a mossy patch behind the collapsed west wing. "It's here," she whispered. "I buried it here." Her father blinked. "Buried what?" Eliza dropped to her knees and began digging with her bare hands. The earth was soft, almost loose, as if it remembered too. After several minutes, her fingers struck something solid. With great care, she pulled it free, a small ornate mirror with an iron frame, its glass clouded and cracked from time. On the back, an engraving read, "To Clara, may you always see the truth." Her mother stepped forward slowly. How did you know that was here?" Eliza didn't answer. She held the mirror tightly against her chest and whispered, "I needed it back." That night at the hotel, Eliza refused to sleep. She sat on the bed, staring into the mirror as if expecting someone to appear. Hours passed in silence. Then suddenly, she flinched. Her eyes widened. The surface of the mirror had shimmered, just for a second. A different face had looked back. It was Clara's. Older than Eliza, but unmistakably similar. The same eyes, the same sadness. Eliza gasped, and then she began to speak. "He lied to me," she said softly. "He promised it was nothing, that she was just a friend. But I saw the letters." Her parents leaned in. "Who lied to you?" Eliza didn't blink. "Thomas, my fiancé. He was seeing her behind my back. Eleanor, tall, green eyes. I found out. I told him it was over." She began crying, but the tears seemed distant, as if they belonged to someone else. "He begged me not to tell, said it would ruin him, but I couldn't lie for him. I told him I'd go to the magistrate." Her mother reached for her, but Eliza suddenly stood, staring into the mirror again. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He followed me to the balcony. I didn't see it coming." She turned to her parents, her face pale. "He pushed me." In the following days, Eliza's obsession with the mirror deepened. She carried it everywhere, treating it like a sacred object. Every night, she'd stare into it, and every night she'd come back with more pieces of Clara's life. She began sketching Clara's bedroom, describing hidden compartments in her vanity, the scent of lavender oil, and the crack in the marble floor by the fireplace. Then came the drawings of people, detailed faces. One man stood out, thin, with round glasses and a gardener's cap. Eliza pointed at him. "He saw it," she said. "He was trimming the roses. He didn't stop Thomas. He just watched." Her parents reached out to a local historian specializing in the Whitmore family. When he saw the mirror, he froze. This was Clara's," he stammered. "It was never recovered. And that man in the drawing, that's George Catterley. He was the gardener. His journal hinted he witnessed something but never told anyone." The historian looked at Eliza, eyes wide. "How do you know all of this?" Eliza stared at him. "Because I remember." That night, a thin crack formed across the mirror's surface. Eliza smiled. "She's almost free," she said, and the mirror gleamed faintly in the dark. Ew. Shadows of the Forgotten. The mirror had cracked, not from a fall, not from pressure, but from memory. Eliza clutched it every night, as if it were the last thread tethering her to something real. Her dreams deepened. They weren't just visions anymore. They were full sensory experiences. She could feel the velvet lining of Clara's dresses, smell the candle wax dripping in the corridors, hear the distant chime of a grandfather clock that hadn't rung in over a century. But with each dream, the shadows grew. She began waking up screaming, not from fear, but from guilt. "There was something I forgot," she said one morning, eyes dark from lack of sleep. "Someone I left behind." Eliza spoke of a name that had never been mentioned before, Adelaide, Clara's younger sister. "She was sick," Eliza said softly. "We were going to send her to the countryside. Fresh air," the doctor said. "But she didn't want to go. She said something bad was coming, and she wanted to stay with me." Her parents, now fully invested in the mystery, began searching for records. There was no Adelaide Whitmore listed in any family registries, no gravestone, no birth certificate. It was as if she had never existed. But Eliza insisted. She was real. She used to follow me around and hum to the birds in the garden. She knew things. Things no one else did. One night she told me I was going to die soon. The mirror began to change too. Its surface shimmered faintly during Eliza's dreams. One night, her mother looked into it and gasped. Just for a second she saw two girls in old-fashioned nightgowns, holding hands, standing in a candlelit hallway. The next day, Eliza drew something new. A door. Small, narrow, hidden behind a tapestry of swans. She pointed to it. "It leads to the priest hole," she said. "I used to hide there when Thomas lost his temper." The historian returned to the ruins of the estate and searched based on her drawing. Behind the only remaining wall of the library, beneath layers of soot and plaster, they found it, a narrow, sealed wooden panel. Inside, a small hidden room, untouched for over 100 years, and on the floor, buried in the dust, was a child's ribbon and a diary. The name on the front, Adelaide Whitmore. Inside were childish entries, ramblings about her sister, about Thomas, and about the man in the woods who whispered things only she could hear. One passage stood out. "Clara is going to die soon. I saw it in the mirror. The one she hides in the garden. She doesn't believe me. I told her Thomas has poison in his smile." Eliza's hands trembled as she read it aloud. "I wasn't the only one who knew," she whispered. "Adelaide tried to warn me, and I didn't listen." The diary ended abruptly with one final chilling line. "If Clara dies, I will follow. No world is worth living in without her." Eliza closed the diary. For a long time, no one spoke. Later that evening, she stood before the mirror once more. The second crack had spread, branching like a lightning bolt. "She's here," Eliza said. "Adelaide never left. She stayed in the shadows, waiting." The air felt heavy, as if the past had slipped into the present, and from the corner of the room, the faint hum of a child's lullaby began to echo. Not from a speaker, not from memory, but from something else, something forgotten. The man with the hollow eyes. Eliza had been changing. She no longer acted like a typical child. Her voice carried the weight of centuries. Her eyes held sorrow no 7-year-old should ever know. But it wasn't until she began talking about him that fear truly settled in. "The man with the hollow eyes," she whispered one night, clutching the cracked mirror. "He's coming." Her parents dismissed it at first, just another piece of Clara's past unraveling through Eliza. But the fear in her voice was different now. It wasn't nostalgic. It was raw. He followed me after. "The fall," she said. "He didn't let me move on. He kept whispering that I was his, that no one escapes him." When asked who he was, Eliza struggled to explain. "He doesn't have a name. He's like a shadow that waits for the broken. He waited for me, and now he wants me back." That night the lights flickered in their home. The mirror let out a high-pitched ringing sound. Eliza collapsed, screaming, hands over her ears. "He found me again." The next morning, she awoke with scratches on her arms, small, thin and jagged, as though traced by fingernails. No one could explain them. There were no pets, no sharp objects near her bed, just the mirror, now with a third crack. The historian returned once more, visibly disturbed. "I did more digging," he said, unfolding aged documents on the dining table. There were whispers in old local letters about a figure seen at Whitmore Estate in the final weeks before Clara's death. A man always standing outside the gates, dressed in black, watching. The servants called him the Hollow Gentleman. Eliza paled. "That's him. That's what I see in the mirror." She began sketching again, this time a tall figure, with sunken, shadowed eyes, no pupils, and a mouth twisted into a smirk that never moved. He wore a high-collared coat, gloved hands, and stood beneath a dead tree. The ground around him was black. He told me that if I spoke the truth in this life, he'd take Adelaide. Her voice cracked. "That's why I stayed quiet before. That's why I let Thomas get away with it." The room went cold. Later that evening, as her mother tried to comfort her, the mirror pulsed with a faint glow. Eliza's reflection disappeared. Instead, it showed the hallway of the old manor. Flickering candles, footsteps, and at the end, him. The Hollow Gentleman. He moved slowly, deliberately. His steps made no sound. His eyes locked on the viewer like he could see through the glass. And as he stepped closer, Eliza screamed, "He's trying to cross through!" Her father smashed the mirror. It shattered into dozens of pieces. Silence followed. But peace did not. That night, Eliza awoke with a gasp. "He's not in the mirror anymore," she whispered. "He's in the shadows now, watching, waiting." The house creaked and groaned, as if settling under the weight of a presence that didn't belong. Every shadow seemed deeper, every corner darker. The final crack may have freed her from the mirror, but it had also set something loose. The final echo Eliza stood at the foot of the ruined manor once more. Morning fog coiled around the broken stones like ghosts clinging to memory. The mirror was gone, but the past had not faded. It had simply stepped into the light. "This is where it ends," she whispered. With her parents and the historian, behind her, Eliza walked to the old balcony, what remained of it. The very place Clara had fallen, or rather, had been pushed. She stopped and closed her eyes. I remember the wind, the scream, the silence. And then her voice shifted, deeper, older. I wanted justice, but I let fear silence me. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them. A low hum filled the air. Behind the collapsed stones, A light flickered. The air shimmered as if someone, was passing through. Adelaide. Eliza turned just in time to see the faint outline of a little girl step from the fog. No older than 6, ribbon in her hair, eyes filled with longing. She reached out a hand to Eliza. "I waited," she whispered. "I know," Eliza said, tears falling freely. "I remember now." They embraced, soul to soul, and in that moment, a great wind swept through the estate. The shadows recoiled. The hollow gentleman's presence evaporated like smoke in sunlight. He was gone. Clara and Adelaide were finally free. Eliza exhaled, peaceful for the first time in months. Past had spoken. The truth had been remembered, and the final echo had faded into silence. Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel Storycraft for more interesting videos.